The New York Times just released a recording after House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy denied telling top Republicans that he would urge President Trump to step down after the January 6th attack. According to the Times, the audio reveals McCarthy discussing plans to call the president directly and suggest he resign. ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks joins me now with more on this. Mary Alice, what's the reaction in Washington to this recording coming out?
Yeah, Diane, pretty quiet so far for members of Congress. We're obviously looking for any additional statement from McCarthy, from Leader McConnell. We're going to continue to be pressing Republicans for their answers on this. There's, as you said, a serious credibility question here. It seems that Kevin McCarthy and his staff was just completely dishonest with reporters about this, really caught in this trap where it now seems that someone had audio of that phone call. And you know, listening to it, there's a lot more questions that need answers. Questions about who exactly was considering a 25th Amendment move. You hear in the audio, Representative Liz Cheney seemed to refer to prior discussions about whether there's a move to invoke the 25th Amendment. That's obviously when the president or members of cabinet can be removed from office. There's a serious question about whether McCarthy did at some point tell Trump he thought he should resign. You hear in the audio recording he says that that's what he thinks he should do, what he plans to do, what he thinks is the best course of action is if he advises the president to resign, but it's unclear whether he ever actually had that phone call. And then, of course, you know, we're going to have to continue to press Republicans about what happened, how they could be talking like this in the days immediately after January 6th, and then within a few days after that, swing so far in the other direction.
And so, Mary Alice, why is this audio so important? Why was it so important to the Times to prove by putting this out there that McCarthy did say that he might advise President Trump to resign in those days after the assault?
And I think it's important because they're trying to show that there was this unbelievable swing, that in the days right after January 6th, we in fact had Republican leaders say that this was a bridge too far, that the president was responsible somehow, that there should be a real break from the party, that they were using this kind of language, a conversation about whether it made sense for him to resign, whether it made sense to vote in favor of an impeachment. They were having this kind of conversation, and yet what we've seen since then, within days and weeks after those conversations, and obviously since, we've seen a swing to complete loyalty again to former President Trump. We've seen people like Kevin McCarthy just completely course correct and stand instead right next to the former president and sort of battle with each other for who is continuing to be most loyal. And so I think what the Times is trying to show is that there was this swing, and they're trying to ask why. Was it that these leaders just thought they couldn't stay in power if they angered Trump's base? Was it that they didn't think they could convince Trump's base that he was in fact somehow responsible?
Now, Donald Trump Jr. is expected to voluntarily meet with the January 6th House committee in the next few days. What's expected to come of that?
Yeah, this is really interesting. We heard Ivanka Trump had met with the committee recently as well. And I want to pull up some of the recent text messages that came to light as a part of Mark Meadows, the then chief of staff, releasing some of his text messages from those days to the committee. And what we know is that Trump Jr. was texting with Meadows, you know, saying things like he being the president then, his father, Trump, has got to condemn the riot ASAP. We need an Oval Office address. He has to lead it now. This has gone too far, gotten out of hand. So no doubt the committee is going to be pressing Trump Jr. on these sorts of text messages, asking whether or not he had personal conversations with the then president, with his father, whether he was on the phone with Meadows. And they're going to try to see how much the family, how much those in the White House knew, how closely they were tracking the events of that day, minute to minute. And clearly this is another example of them looking beyond the scope of who was actually engaged in violence, who was actually smashing windows and hurting police officers, and they're painting a bigger picture about who would be responsible or who was engaged in either inciting or covering up or downplaying that kind of violence.
So, Mary Alice, where does the January 6th committee stand now? Who else do they want to hear from, and what's expected to happen when they do finally wrap this up?
Yeah, clearly no one is off limits. The fact that they are talking to members of the First Family, the former First Family, means that they are casting a wide net. And remember, there's still active subpoenas, so people that could be compelled by the courts to participate. We know that the committee is looking to hold public hearings in June, so that will clearly be must-watch TV. Everyone will be interested to see what kind of public hearings they eventually do. And then they're going to put out a report, and that will be sort of the conclusion of this committee's work, and that report, of course, expected to come out before the midterm elections.
Diane. All right. White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks. Mary Alice, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.